the NJC's 10-minute takeaway, where we will try and cram in as much information as we can into a 10-minute workshop. I'm Tom Stenson, Head of Training for the NJC, and today I'm joined by Vicky and Kim from Gates Gibson Business Management. Thanks for joining us both.
Thank you for having us.
In today's topic, we will be discussing how to manage driving tests, and our 10 minutes starts now. I know it's quite difficult for driving instructors since the pandemic, and it's been the same for, the average members of the public as well to try and book driving tests. But I do feel that as business owners, we should be able to adapt to sort of the circumstances that we've got at the moment. So what kind of advice do you both give when it comes to booking driving tests for pupils?
I think the best advice for the students is, to get the theory test done as soon as possible. Obviously, without that being passed, they obviously can't book the driving test, with that then being a 6-month wait. And to be mindful that they don't do too much tuition too soon and they're ready for a test before they've even got a date sort of over the next few weeks. So booking the test for me would be, because of the delay, would literally, rather than do 2 sessions a week, which is what I would do pre-COVID, now I'm seeing them once a week, and sometimes in some cases I've had to pause them because the situation isn't going to change from what I can see anytime too soon. So it's down to us to adapt to the system that we have to work with. There's nothing else we can do. So pre-COVID, I would carry something like, 12, 13 learners. Now, sometimes I carry between 25 and 30. Some are on hold, some are doing once a fortnight, once a week. But I try to plan it to coincide with their actual test day.
And I think to a certain degree there, although this goes off topic a small amount, I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing if we get pupils to do a few extra hours as well, even though they might be at that standard, because I think the more we can do to push that standard, hopefully it's a good thing. But we are talking specifically about booking and managing the driving tests. So I think one of the things that has been mentioned before is the use of the online booking system for ADIs. I know PDIs can't do that. What advice do you give to people if they're using the OBS to try and help manage their business as well as their learners?
Best advice is, when it comes to it, if you can use it, use it. At least then you're booking your students into a date that you want to do. Some people might not want to work in the school holidays, so you won't book a test in this leading up to the school holidays. You might not want to work Fridays, so you make sure all your tests that you're going to book then are Monday to Thursday. Whereas if a learner's booking it themselves, they potentially could book any day of the week, any time of the year, which might not fall in with your diary. So that gives you one good benefit of using it. Another good benefit would be the fact that you then can swap tests over between your students. So like you say, some students might need additional hours, and great, let's get those additional hours in. But then if I've got Joe that's not ready and Gina that is, I can just swap them over quite easily on the system, not having to make a call. And then I've got the students in the day that I actually want them to be in.
And I do wonder, from conversations I've had from some instructors as well, that they seem to think that by getting their pupils to do all of that, they're saving themselves the time and effort. But I think, like the things you just highlighted there, Kim, for me, that would make my life far easier if I could do those types of things than if I'm having to try and relay back and forth to pupils what we're going to have to do. As with everything we have in the industry, some things are going to work for some people, some things aren't. But I can see more of the benefits for registering your pupils and managing them a little bit more on the online booking system than having to keep calling up. I remember just after the pandemic when I had to call someone up to swap 2 tests, and I was on the phone for 4.5 hours. On my day off. Yeah, no, it was great. So yeah, I can see the benefits to doing that. What else would you suggest then? So if people necessarily weren't going to use the online booking system, what advice would you give them to try and manage the test delays that we've got with learners?
The biggest management I think that you can do when it comes to the test delays is managing your diary the right way. So even if a student is booking their own test, it's working out, doing that initial assessment with the student, or if you've known them from the beginning, you'll know where they're at, and working out how much time they're going to need leading up to that test, so you can work backwards, so to speak. So go from the test, work backwards to where you need to start, and then go forwards again with them. And by you doing that and managing your diary appropriately, then ideally you can have all your slots filled. You know what you're doing between now and the next 6 months, because that's when tests are being booked up to. You know where you've got gaps coming in if you get any inquiries. You by managing that diary, you can also manage other elements of your business, but also then the tests and the students that are coming in with their own tests and different locations and different times that you wouldn't normally be booking for.
Vicky, have you got any other bits to add in for that one?
Going on from what Kim has said, and absolutely right to book where you book the test and then book backwards from that. I've spoken to instructors whereby where the learners book the test, they go, okay, fine, they put it on the diary. Okay, we'll put lessons in nearer the time. So what happens between sort of month 1 and say month 5, with the test being say month 6, they're taking on these new learners, gaps getting filled. Months before the test, the student gets in touch and says, like, what's happening with my lessons? My test is in a month. Well, I can't fit you in. But surely that's your existing student. So planning ahead in your diary, that alone will have a positive impact when you're structuring for learners for their driving test. And I always have a rule of thumb whereby with my learners, I either book them to their driving test or I book them to their expected test date. If all the above is none and void, they just go and repeat until 2030. When the test date comes in, I just chop the rest off and it's job done. But then everything has a connection, because that then has a knock-on effect. I now know what my potential earnings are next month or the month after. So by structuring one thing can have a domino effect in a positive way, if done correctly, of what your business is going to look like. And then you'll get some that will say, but it means it's more admin for me. Is it, as you said earlier, Tom, you know, is it more admin, or is it actually admin you've got to do to actually reduce the admin you were doing? But as business owners, you need to set aside some admin time, and you just make that part and parcel of that.
For me, the thing that you've highlighted there as well comes down to the communication between us and that pupil, to kind of say, look, you know, you're probably aware of the backlog that we're in, and it is going to take this time. So, you know, this is my expectation of what you guys need to do in that time period.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to help you do. This is what you need to be doing. And just having that communication leading up to it, that if the pupil isn't ready, we're giving them plenty of opportunity to say, look, you know, we need to change this. We need to give you more time to do that. Do you guys ever sort of suggest, because we've got one locally, we've got not only a local association, but we have sort of a Facebook and WhatsApp group. Do you suggest the instructors contact other instructors if they've got a pupil that needs to move a test, so you can perhaps find a likewise instructor who's also got somebody that's looking to move tests?
Yeah, I'm currently running quite a few test swap groups in where we're based in London. We've got at least 5 test centres around us that we could potentially use. So we allow other instructors to join in specifically for the West London area or specifically for that test location. And it gives them the opportunity to put in, I've got a student with a test in 2 weeks' time, wants to delay till November, or for example, November, December, and then other people say, well, I've got this, I've got that. And then it gives you the opportunity to get that test swap. I think by having those groups, it does then open up the conversation with your student that don't worry about the test delay, because there's an opportunity that we might get one within a month or within 2 months. with one of my colleagues that are looking for a test swap as well. So then your students are not so reluctant to put their test off, because the idea of putting it off for 6 months is potentially going to make them say, no, I'm just going to chance it. I want to go for my test. But if you say, look, let's just get a few extra lessons in, we'll go for a test in 6 weeks, then they're more likely to agree with you and do the test swap that you're asking them to do. So go for it.
Yeah, and I think that alleviates some of that pressure from the pupils as well, doesn't it? Knowing that, okay, if it is unsuccessful, which hopefully it's not, you haven't got so much of a time. Put the effort in now, and hopefully it's kind of beneficial.
Yeah.
That is the end of our 10 minutes. It runs very quickly. So can I just say thank you very much both for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at the expo in September.
Thank you.
See you there.